I'm kind of ordinary, but kind of extraordinary too, which from my experiences. But I live an ordinary life in the suburbs of New York and New Jersey, and I'm a single dad. I have a 17-year-old daughter who is a big part of my life, and I'm really blessed to have, I'm blessed to have the spiritual experience part of the near-death experience. The almost dying, that part is not a blessing, but you know, I get to do amazing work and help people connect into that energy that I connected into in my near-death experience, and people get better in so many ways. It's really mind-blowing. I mean, it's really cool what I get to do and participate in. It's really a special thing. So, but you know, I'm on the PTA. I have to pay my bills and all that that kind of stuff. You know, my daughter's planning for college for next year, and so it's a lot of work doing that with her. But I love it. I love being a dad. I was a little interested, but not really. I can look back and see how my life before that experience was leading in this direction, and I often say if I was really listening, I wouldn't have had to crash my car and have that part of it, because I had some things happen to me that were definitely spiritual and quite profound. I just kind of dismissed them. I did start doing yoga before that, and you know, I happened to know my girlfriend gave me Hermann Hesse books and things like that. But part of the reason I did it is because I like my girlfriend, you know, so. I was always very intuitive and sometimes would see people's auras. But I just really thought that was normal, to tell you the truth, and didn't realize not everyone could do that. I also saw my passed away grandfather in the movies one time, and all these things I just kind of let go. With my grandfather, I mean, I saw him, and he's a unique looking person. He looked as real as a physical person, and I just kind of, I didn't know what to make of it. You know, now I would have some idea in my mind what to do. So then this was really the biggest, as far as that, the biggest thing that really changed after my near-death experience. I started meeting a lot of people that had near-death experiences. I started meeting spiritual teachers. I got involved with some, and that's when I knew what to do in my thinking, in my mind, you know, with all these spiritual experiences I've had. Plus, it was like I was going along like this, and my near-death experience moved it way up here, you know, kind of thing. So I was in the movie theater sitting on the side, and I remember I like to sit in the middle, but I was there with a bunch of friends and there weren't enough seats together, so we sat a little to the side, maybe in the 10th row, and I saw this man from the back, and my grandfather was unique looking. He was big, tall, big. He also had a haircut like mine, which back in those days wasn't the most common thing. And I, on purpose, walked around this way to the, you know, past the front of the, he was in the front row. I walked that way and to look at him, and I saw him. It was definitely him. And I was with my brother, so I didn't stop. People sometimes say, didn't you say hello to him? I didn't, you know, I didn't even know what to do with it in my mind. And I said to my brother, did you see Pop in the front row there? He said no. And you know, again, he didn't make that big a deal of it either, and I just let it go and, you know, went about my business. Yeah, I was at a party and drinking, and it was, you know, kind of a funny story because I didn't feel like I was that high, and I don't drink or do any of that stuff now at all, but back in those days, people didn't really think twice about drinking and driving. It wasn't like it is now. And so I do remember, so I told I went with a friend, I asked him to give me a ride home, mostly so I could go back the next day to pick my car up and talk to the girl who was having the party. I didn't feel like I was too high, but I was staying at my parents' because I had been living in Colorado and then came back east to visit my parents, and this was there. When I was almost back to my parents' house, I realized my sister needed to use, I took my mom's car, use the car the next morning. So I told my friend, bring me back, I gotta get, and you know, I do remember after that, I went inside just to tell the young lady that I was taking my car, and I remember leaving the party, and you know, I do these interviews, and so I think about it, but even the image of the party it was a little hazy, and you know how sometimes when you drink the colors are a little too bright. I should have known then I shouldn't have driven. But so the next thing I knew after that, I don't remember getting in the car or driving. The next thing I remember is being out of my body, above, looking down on my physical body that was sitting on the ground up against a tree. A police officer was crouching above me. The car was really smashed, and my head was, you know, cut open. I was in white light all around me. Behind me was a circle of a different shade of white light. Within that circle was like a human white being, just all white. I couldn't see any features at all. And it felt, the feeling part of it, I'm a very kinesthetic person in my physical body too, so feeling was really the main experience. It just felt so nice. It felt, I compare it to a beautiful summer day, you know, just on one of those days it's the perfect temperature and perhaps a gentle breeze, and it just feels almost like you're in the water because it's so nice out, you know. And it just, even though I saw my body there smashed, everything seemed fine. I seemed to understand everything in the world was fine, and felt this loving, warm energy that was just like, everything's good. You know, everything everywhere is good. And I don't know how long it was. It seemed like either there was no time or a lot of time. The being behind me said, "You have to go back. Your father wants you to stay." And I knew right then the father that being was talking about was God, not my physical father. And in the spirit of everything's just okay, I went back into my body. I didn't question it at all, and came to 3 days later in the hospital. I wasn't looking behind me, but what I described to you I could see. I guess in my inner vision or whatever. You know, someone asked me not that long ago, they said, "I guess you could see behind you then." I go, "I guess so. I didn't even think, how did I know what was behind me if I was looking this way?" It was just like kind of this all-knowing thing that you just kind of knew, you know, everything, but also you didn't need to know anything. So it's, you know, it's just everything was good. I didn't really do anything with that for quite a while until, so my mom kind of bribed me to move back east instead of living out in Colorado. I was working in a restaurant as a chef there, and she bought me a brand new Jeep to bribe me to move back east and work for my dad's electrical contracting company. One day I was sitting in my apartment, and someone knocked on the door. And, you know, it was before cell phones, so I didn't think, now if someone knocks on my door, it's like, who's there? You know, if I don't know they're coming. But there was this beautiful woman at the door, and she introduced herself. She was the sister of a good friend of mine, and she said, "My sister said some things about you, and I just want to meet you." So she introduced me to the first spiritual teacher that I worked with. And it's kind of cool because she just showed up at my door. And, you know, I take my spiritual work very seriously, and I do a lot, but a lot of it just kind of has happened to me since then. And that's a thing that's changed in my near-death experience. It's like, my life is meant to be that. What a coincidence, exactly. And they say there's no coincidence, and it wasn't. So she introduced me to this Sufi sheikh, and when he started to talk to me about certain things, it just like, oh, now it starts to make sense, my experience that I didn't really know. So first he started to talk to me about Mary. So even, he's an Islamic, he passed away, an Islamic teacher, but Mary is part of the Islamic religion. So when he talked about Mary's love of God and how she was so open to receive the Christ energy, I thought, wow, that was my experience of what it was like, receiving that energy in my near-death experience. When he started to talk about Jesus, I go, oh, just the feeling, it was Jesus was that person behind me. He talked about the ocean of divine love and benevolence, and I go, oh, that was the white light that I was in, and I just needed to know about this more. So it ended up, he had a near-death experience, and a lot of people that studied with him did. I started studying like the Tibetan Book of the Dead. The term near-death experience was coined around that time, but I never heard of it. But I studied death from a lot of different traditions, and listened to this man who, and he would always say to me, "I'm not your real teacher, but you can stay around me till we find someone." And I would say to him, "Who's we? What are you talking about?" And like most things that I asked him, he just kind of smiled and didn't answer me. So this Sufi sheikh was a Mevlevi dervish, a Mevlevi sheikh, and they did the whirling. But the Mevlevi dervishes follow the teachings of Jalaluddin Rumi, the poet that has become very famous. So there's a book that he wrote a lot of things, but the main book of the teaching is called the Mathnawi, and you do readings from there. So it's a 3-volume, it's 6 volumes, but in 3 books, and you sort of do this thing where you hold a question inside and you move your thumb across, and you get the right reading. And it's written in poems and stories, so a lot of times it's, you almost had to figure out what it meant, how it would apply to your situation. But so a friend of mine offered me to pay for me to go to Virginia Beach and pay for me to be in this workshop of this person she thought I should meet as a different spiritual teacher. So I did a reading in the Mathnawi, but it was really quite amazing because it was very specific. So this person that I went to meet would write, he has these little booklets called discourses, and in the Mathnawi they're called discourses also. So I did a thing, and I read open, it said, it said very clearly, before you do these discourses, and go meet the person and listen to them with your spiritual ear, not your physical ear. And I was like, wow, this was so specific. And so I went to meet that person, and then I realized that was someone I should really know. I didn't lose contact with the Sufi person because he really served me well and did a lot. So I say this to people a lot when I'm talking to them, when I'm working with them, or even doing interviews or lectures, to listen to what's behind it. In one way, there is no way to describe the spiritual experiences. There's just no way. It's too amazing. It's too big. And, so there's the part behind it, like the feeling that you get inside hearing the words, and how it opens your heart up, and how it opens your mind, and just causes this like little smile inside, So that is listening with your spiritual ear. I do teach people, but I don't like to call myself a spiritual teacher at all. I think that's not my place. I'm still learning, I still study with people. It's not over. If you think it is, if you think you made it, you're wrong. I meditate every day. I do Tai Chi. I do journal writing. I spend hours every day making sure I'm taking care of myself, being on track. It is easy for your ego and imagination to get off track in there with these cool things, but to keep that on track and keep my energy field and body clear energetically to work with people in the highest way. I was out on the deck, and I came back in, and it was like a big room with like a dining area, and at the dining table there was this beautiful woman sitting there, and she looked physical as could be. I could feel by the energy she was, even though she was beautiful, she was a negative, she was a demon. I kind of panicked a little bit because, but then I realized what you do and how to get rid of that. So when Jesus came in and brought in the Jesus energy of grace and forgiveness, that sort of gave us authority. And the whole thing that happened between Lucifer and Jesus, it's in the Bible, gave us as humans a certain authority over the negative forms. So I just asked for the Christ light, and then she knows, yeah, I got to leave. She got this look on her face like being kind of annoyed, and then she went by, and I felt a little like shiver kind of thing, but then she left. I see a lot of different things. So there are thousands of angels around, and thousands of positive things. The negative things are there. I've just been using spiritual intuit lately because, being clairvoyant is, I don't like psychic, clairvoyant. I don't know, it just seems to be, I I want to be making sure I'm going for the highest perspective. And anything that it's good to label things in the spirit because it's part of how we get authority over it, but it's also, you don't want to get stuck in what you knew before. When I work with people, there's, mostly, well, there's part where I look and I can see this beautiful, wonderful thing in the person, and then in order to clear the way for them to get more to that, there's the part of getting rid of the negative forms, and then a lot of times there's past life patterns to clear. So I see those things a lot because I know people want to feel better, they want to be healthier, they want to be happier, and a lot of it has to do with clearing that. It's good to be positive about it and understand it is a gift, and that gift is meant to be honored and respected in a way that, I like to look at what I do and think how cool it is, but there's part of it of respecting that gift and knowing it's what I do, but it's not just me. So there's a part of it of respecting and almost bowing down to it, and then there's a part of appreciating my participation in it. So when I say that, I don't know what to call what I do, and explain it to people, then they get it, because they get the spirit of it. Someone that I'm working with now is, it was kind of good, because so sometimes I know very specific things about people, sometimes it's not so much like that, it's just kind of this gray or dark energy around them, and I don't even get to see the details. So that's how it is with this person. And then a little while ago, I saw this image of this person being like in a cocoon and coming out of it. And I didn't mention it to him because I don't like to put things in people's head, but the next time I talked to him, they said, oh, I had so much energy, I was able to do a double shift and not feel tired, and they were just having a lot of trouble with their energy and feeling kind of down, and they just felt so much better. So that's general. Someone I recently helped had some thyroid issues that looks way better now. So what I do is definitely the spiritual part. It's just a lot of times there's, physical benefits. Always what I'm doing is lining people up with their spiritual path and connecting them into that. Sometimes I see things in my inner vision. Sometimes I see things like out here. Sometimes I just hear things, or sometimes know things. I work on Zoom or Skype, or sometimes just on the phone. Finding your calling, I think, is really important. And we talked about being a parent. I mean, what greater blessing is there in the world than that? You know what I mean? That's the most spiritual thing. I used to be a cook in Colorado. I love that. That brings you joy and clicks inside of you, gets that magic in you going. I think that's important, and don't get caught up in thinking it has to be healing work. If you're doing spiritual work, it could be anything. Being a teacher, being an electrician, being so many things. I've seen people that magic comes inside of them. It's like, wow, that is so cool. The way to really get this is to do sessions with me, really, because you feel it and you just really connect. And you can do that on my website. There's ways to make appointments right on there.